Here we go. Okay, welcome. Thank you everyone for coming back to watch our series here. We are at part 4 with Christopher James, and we are talking about common law. Very important subject, especially today with everything going on in our world, and especially here in Canada. So welcome, Christopher. Thanks for coming back.
Pleasure to be here again, as always, Amina.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So let's just get into it again. We want to recap what we've been doing for part 1, 2, and 3, and just do a sort of a point form as to what steps people can take to get involved in their own identity here as a human being and a man or a woman here in Canada, so or anywhere in the world for that matter. So point 1, we talked about birth certificate. Do you want to just briefly say something about that?
Sure. The birth certificate has nothing to do with us. Okay. That's something that was created by a service corporation in Canada here. It's called, and where I live, it's the Ontario government, right? They created this document when I was only moments old lying in a hospital. I had no consciousness of it. So just remember, it doesn't apply to you. It's simply a record, and it's actually evidence, as we've talked about, of identity theft. The only thing that you have to really look at is the birth date that's on it. Okay. I know we've thrown a lot of information at people here, but it really is simple. I mean, when you just take a little bit of time, slow down, like I have to sometimes. Again, I do speak quickly sometimes, but it is all very simple when you understand what's happening. And I found that when you can take the word Government of Ontario or Government of Canada out of the way and put Burger King there, Tim Hortons, that's how you look at it. It really helps people register like, yes, that they can't do that from that corporation, those people. So how can people that are supposed to be our employees ultimately, do that from these service corporations? So
Yeah.
it's a simple way to look at it.
Okay, and so let's just do a real quick, for example, for my on my green screen, I'm doing funny things here. My birth certificate, I'm born in South Africa, so I'm a Canadian citizen of many, many years here, and there's probably many Canadians like me. Now, you had suggested that, let's just recap what you told me just before we started recording.
Yeah, well, the first thing we got to do is that you used a bad word there, citizen. Okay.
Correct. Yes.
We're not citizens, and this is all part of the the reconditioning. So just remember, you're a man or a woman, or you're one of the people. Never allow any other, and definitely don't use that title for yourself for a citizen, because as everyone knows, the citizen's the slave. So in your case, I mean, it was very interesting. Being from you were born outside of Canada. That was correct.
Yeah, in South Africa.
Yeah, so South Africa. So, what's happening here, it's interesting that your situation, I have other people that are born in Jamaica and that are looking for these same documents, and they're having problems getting them, obviously, from all around the world. Some people do get them, but what they do get sent, it's just a glorified version of that birth certificate. And as we wonderfully talked to in our last broadcast, I believe it was, we had people from New Brunswick that were contacting you, and they were stating that they were having problems getting this long form record. And that's what it is, because it does not say birth certificate on it. So I've been giving a great deal of thought, well, a great deal of thought to it, but it's actually happening a lot right now that this is what they're doing in the UK. They're actually coming right down on the notaries. They're not allowing the notaries. They're telling them, don't you dare sign anything to do that has a piece of paper that a man or woman brings you where they're stating that they're a man. It's really horrible, what they're actually trying to do to block it. So what we can tell people here today, which is very simple to do, is that you actually don't need that long form record. Okay. Why? Because you can use the record that they actually gave you that was evidence. That's the birth certificate. And all you can simply point to is the date, the birth date, because obviously all that information was created when you were born. That's a fact. And the fact that you and I are standing here, walking around this world in flesh and blood, then that's all the evidence that you need. You're standing right there before your fellow man and woman. Somebody has to write a letter, right, when you're sending it to these people. So it has to come from we're not artificial intelligence. So I'm going to actually do something in the next, again, my YouTube channel got banned this week. I should be up by next Wednesday, I think, again, or Thursday, hopefully. And I'm going to put up new templates on the website to help people in this situation like yourself, that you don't have to rely upon getting that hospital record, that we can move forward and create communications and documentation that will be proper for you in addressing who you are in this world as the man or the woman.
Okay, great. So I am who I am, regardless of any birth certificate. I am a woman, and that's enough. That should be enough to, right.
One of the people, right? That's it. No,
excellent.
Like I said, what we're going to see, what we're going to talk about later here, we're going to get into some documentation on a Sunday show that I'm looking forward to doing with Amina. And this is going to, again, it's these same 3 powerful sentences we'll get into, but we'll wrap up this initial part that we started first with the trespass and the birth certificates, understanding that documentation that was created. It's very simple to understand. And then the
Mm-hmm.
next step is to actually start to correct the record. And as I've said to everybody, my claim that is before the courts right now in the Milton courthouse, this is huge, and why the world has to look at it, because once this gets brought into the light and this is actually looked at and seen by everybody as this goes down, I plan on having it streamed live from the courthouse. No different than the Service Corporation Ontario did. Remember when they were doing the hearings surrounding, I guess it was Doug Ford was fighting back against this carbon tax?
Mm-hmm.
Remember how they broadcast that live? Well, see, they're showing people that's what that public courthouse should be used for, that we're able to use technology to share with people in real time, the transparency that's going on and the truth that's being brought forward into these courts. So it's a very exciting time, because once that happens, once this light goes in, yes, you have to know and understand this trespass that's occurred, but you and I mean, we're not going to have to worry about going and creating documentation once the record is corrected, because these people in the service corporations, it's affected all of them as well, from all the homes, property, everything that they've built, that they've purchased. It's all on the incorrect title is on, for that property. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a massive hard reset that's going to come. But again, that's the least of our worries right now, as we're seeing that's going on in our country and around the world. They're pushing this forward solely for this draconian measure with, this whole internment camps and locking people down. So this is the real fight that we have behind us. And this whole, idea or whatever thing, it's nice to understand who you are, but when the rubber hits the road, we need something with real teeth, that's going to stop all this trespassing and wrong and harm that's occurring. And that's why that courthouse is so important to us right now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then point two was the public courts versus the private courts.
Yes. So just remember that all these, provincial and federal court systems, buildings, they are public buildings. We, the people, pay for them. And you just simply need to understand that every man and woman working in that public courthouse, they're never going to claim that you're property. Okay. And they're never going to claim that they can administrate property without right. So when you're going to a public courthouse, you make sure that you never, ever, ever use legal forms. You simply create, as you can see from my document, you can use that as a guide, so to speak, and you see there's no legal terminology. It's very straightforward what the claim is. It's just
Mm-hmm.
common language. So that's something that people will learn down the road, and it's important that people understand that our public courthouse, and thank you for bringing that up again, Armina. It's so important. That is where we go to seek justice. That is where, when we have enormous wrong and harm occurring, or if there's something very serious that people are out in our communities and in society are having a problem with, that's where we go to investigate it, to air it out, to filter it out, to find out, is there wrong and harm here? Where is the problem going? And is there a trespass? And more importantly, how do we create it moving forward? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important. And that's why we don't fight in the streets. None of my stuff that I've ever done, and I've looked at lots of your communications with people, we're not threatening anybody. We're not making any,
Yeah, no.
speaking totally in love. That's what this is about. But we have to be firm. We have to stand our position and realize that public courthouse is the key to everything. Justin Trudeau, Doug Ford, all of these people that are acting for the service corporations, they can't get away with anything that they're doing in this world once we bring them into this courthouse. And this is what needs to happen.
Yeah, and what can you talk just briefly on? I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but Shigovsky court.
Seklesky? Yeah.
Yes.
Sekulovsky, yes, I have problems with it too sometimes. Yes, the court is, like I said, it's sitting there now waiting for me to move it. And at this time, we're simply getting our ducks further in a row again. My whole objective to this was to bring Brad Blair on, the past OPP commissioner. I want to reiterate that to people. I think he's an incredible man. If you're hearing this for the first time, please write to Brad Blair's lawyer, Julian Faulkner, and tell him with all your heart that he has to do everything he can to bring Brad and I together. Why this is such an important time, and I'm not, look, I know Julian's part of the bar, and
Mm-hmm.
I've told everyone I'm here to liquidate the bar into oblivion because of the corruption it's doing. But the man Julian is a wonderful man. I know that. I know that what he's doing all he can to protect Brad. And we have to, as I always say, is put that aside, our differences aside. And
Mm-hmm.
Brad and I need to come face to face and sit down, because the big thing here that we're talking about and seeing are these internment camps, all these lies and deceit that's going on. I got a communication yesterday, which was wonderful to see that the German, doctors out there, there's over 1,000 of them now that have come forward, and they've outright said on the record, they've claimed that this entire COVID is all fraud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is what we must get out to the hearts and minds of our fellow men and people. When they realize, they don't understand that the science, the actual real science, behind COVID and what's being done to people in our hospitals, from the masks to the ventilators, everything, from locking us down. It's exactly the opposite of
Mm-hmm.
what should be done. And the
Mm-hmm.
doctors they're trying with all their heart to come through, but the mainstream media, as everybody knows, is blocking everyone. And that's why what you're doing here
Yeah.
and what we do is so important.
I think that's quite a significant indication when you start seeing media, you know, editing out and taking down large enough platforms that are just speaking about various topics too. Nothing that's even. And when you start seeing something like that happen, I mean, these are signs of fascism. I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
start
there's
to
no,
think. I think it's important to start thinking about what is going on here. It's
yeah.
serious. Yeah.
And that's why that trespass, as I said, it's so important that people understand the very first thing that happened to all of us when we came into this world, because it applies to right here and now, because it's from that corruption that's happened in our consciousness with this paperwork and that's been created over time, that we've been led to believe that someone like another man, Justin Trudeau, who's supposed to be the ultimate man in this country, who's protecting us, with all his service agents underneath him, honorably working towards protecting the property of man. And yet what we have here now is something that is very evil, that has come out into the light, that everybody can see. This dictatorial type of, as you said, fascism. It is here right now, and this is what the central bankers who control all the governments of the world have been
Mm-hmm.
waiting for a very long time. And we have the truth. It's just a matter, like I say, this is so simple to stop, Amina. The people just need to know the power of that public courthouse. So it's yes, it's very scary times for people, but as we're trying to do here, we're trying to give people knowledge. And knowledge wipes out any fear you could ever possibly have. Remember that. That's why Amina and I, we don't fear any of this that's coming down the
Mm-mm.
pipe, or the people
No.
that are doing it, because we understand the system. So we're doing all we can to help all of you out there to understand and learn this, and take the time. You've got to be patient with yourself. Yes, I had 20 years at being slugged through the mud with all this, and it took me a while to really, once I started drilling down on this, and that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
hopeful that I've saved everyone a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like I've been really looking at all sorts of things for the past 20 years myself, and it's led me to where I am today and understanding, and many people, too many conversations. And you really have to take that initiative upon yourself, because we do have to rise up. We have to rise up, and we can do something. We can think without fear. There's a lot of narratives out there. I avoid watching the news, mainstream media. I avoid television completely. There's many things I avoid doing and listening to, and what I allow into my mind. It's very, very important, because our minds are being attacked
That's right.
on many, many levels. On levels people don't even begin to understand.
Yeah.
So I really encourage that myself. Really do what you can to stay in your own mind, really, and do your own research and things like that. And this is why we do these sorts of shows and have these platforms, because mainstream media will not cover anything about what, like for instance, what you're talking about, and they are taking down a lot of platforms. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Well, I was talking with Sean from SG Sargent,
Yeah,
who got his channel pulled down. 740,000 subscribers he had.
I know.
And there was another 14 people. So, he's a really incredible man. I also want people to know that he is still out there. You can go to sgtreport.com. That's his website. And
Good.
he's doing, he can't do live streams, but what he does, and again, I almost forgot. I've got an incredible interview that I did with him. It was so good, Armina, that after we did the first part, it was very powerful this week on Tuesday. We started talking off camera, and he's going, oh, hang on a second. That's a perfect, whatever I was saying, I just go. And he says, that could be a perfect intro. And then once I started some more, he going, wait, just hang on. And he started recording, and he says, we've got to do a second show here, because you're blowing me away here with
Nice.
this stuff. And so this is very powerful, and this is going to be a big weekend where this is where the rubber's going to start to hit the road, because this is going to get out to a lot of people. Like I said, he's got over
Good.
700,000 subscribers, and it's a great
And
time.
so can you find him on BitShoot?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so BitShoot as well. So he's one of them. Definitely, I've watched him for quite a long time now. He's got great material, well researched too. Also, Sarah Westall, she's a friend of mine. We've done a couple of interviews together. They took her platform completely down. So I encourage you all to find her on Odyssey Library. I think it's called BitShoot as well. Sarah Westall. So she's definitely up and still doing her interviews. So there, and there's a few others as well. I know in the blockchain space, Bitcoin Ben, his was taken down. Dollar Vigilante, really great show. Jeff Berwick, that's his show. They took his down, but you can find him on all the other platforms that I just mentioned as well. And I think that's where a lot of us are going to. I'm
Yeah.
also putting mine up on BitShoot. I think you are as well, right?
Yep.
You're already
I'm all.
there.
Yep. And
Yeah.
new YouTube. That's the other one.
Which one?
New YouTube, it's called.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So my stuff is being migrated there as well. And you're absolutely right, Amina. This is the problem is, like to really help people, it's the problem is that they're listening to the mainstream media and the radio. My goodness, I have
Yeah.
a bird, even when I'm in his room for a few minutes, he's
It's
got the radio on.
programming. Yeah.
Oh my, it's awful.
It's
It's
all
just horrific.
programming because they repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, and
Yes.
that's part of hypnosis. And
Yes.
I've talked to a special, hypnosis specialist. She's one of the top in the city that I live in, and she told me it's classic hypnosis. Four stages that they use. It's classic what they're doing right now, and it's anyway. It's serious business. It's serious,
It's
folks. Like,
very bad. And that's
yeah.
why we got to drill in somehow on, like I say to people, when you start to understand this truth, and as Armenian, I know that you're lied to across the spectrum from radio, print, your newspapers, and also television, Hollywood. You've got to start to reach. This is the problem that I'm starting to see is that, we're not, even though we're attacking the fraud and the corruption that's going on here with the court that I've got going, the other side of this is that we've got to get active, and you've got to write to these people that are the program directors at the radio stations. You've got to bring attention to them of the lie that we've all been fed, because
Mm-hmm.
you see their business models are being propped up. It's almost like a glorified payola. For those of you who don't know what payola is, I was in the music industry back in the day. Used to have A&R, that's the record company executives that would come in, and they'd throw a few dollars, to the program director, because they only used to have a few slots that they could fit in a new artist every week. They might have 5 or 7 new slots a week that they could possibly maybe fit someone in. So there was all this backdoor money that was going on. It was called payola. You can see there's lots of videos now on YouTube back in the day. But this is what we have going on here today, except it's been
Mm-hmm.
governmentalized, if I can use that word. Is that
Right.
it's government that is paying for all this blanket communication, these horrific, short little blurbs, stay at home, protect yourself. We're all in this together. That same narrative as you're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about. This psyop. So we got to write back to these people that are the DJs, the program directors. We're going to say, hey, Bob and Susie, you got to stop this, and show them the evidence. Send them powerful links, with the doctors, screaming that the mask and everything that's going on, it's the exact opposite of what should be done. I'm sure this is resonating within everybody. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
must know
Mm-hmm.
something's wrong, and yet no one's stopping this powerful communication
So,
coming on.
so what can people take away from this? What can they do? Like, I know there are some comments in the comments saying, that's great to know all about common law and know your lawful rights. It is about lawful and not your legal. It is all about lawful rights.
Yep.
Um, and they just say, okay, no, you can't do this, and they just enforce whatever. What can they do? What can we do to rise up? What is number one step?
Well, like I say, the step, my filing, it's in the courthouse now. For those people that are saying, no, it can't be done, or the system's corrupt, I say you're wrong. Okay, the evidence is right before you, just do not understand what's been done. This is the problem. The people do not understand the power of this claim that we've just established at the Milton Courthouse with the Sokleski Court. It is huge. Why? Because it's addressing the one question, the rules of civil procedure. This is what has been blocked. This is what everyone out there is referring
But
to
that's
as
what you're doing, Chris.
that's what I'm doing. But once that is done and brought into the light, it goes right across every courthouse, right? All of a sudden, they're restored. So all the people that would normally try and file claims and be dragged into the legal side, that's not going to happen anymore. But don't think for a second that once my claim gets in there for the Sokleski court,
Mhm.
I don't want to tip my hand of what's actually going to happen right in the same moment. But just let me say, the very top people in this country of these service corporations, they're going to be brought into court that day. That's what I'm working on. This is where the rubber hits the road. It's not about the Sokleski court and the estate thing. It's actually what that is going to achieve, because they've been unable to kick it out right now, right? It's gone 4 weeks and the lawyers have all tried. The register hasn't kicked it out now. So they know they're waiting to see and test the mettle of the man. And that's why when I go back to the courthouse this time,
Right.
I must have police support with it. And that's where Brad Blair comes in. So for those of you that are saying that this isn't going to work, I'm showing you the keys moving forward on the battlefield, right? The truth is right there at the courthouse. We've got to simply bring the police, Brad Blair, and all his officers, and just to wake people up in that capacity to what is going on in the here and now. And I just need 30 officers minimum to stand with me at that public courthouse in Milton, and we'll get this done. in one day. We can change and stop all of this in one day, but it must be brought into the public courthouse.
So you need Brad Blair. You need him.
I don't need him, but it would be a huge support, right? Because this is the problem. I'm sure
Yeah.
that lots of people within the OPP are aware of this. You know, people have to understand that the head of the OPP now, I have a verified claim against this man surrounding the Maneri case as well, that his officers under his control have committed horrific wrong and harm to him. Right? This man is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. The takeaway from the Brad Blair interview, if you go and you watch that from my live stream on October the 16th, there's one part that I really, really liked where Brad talked about the independence, right? He's talking about the independence of the OPP. You have to take a step back and think about that for a second. It's an independent corporation. That's what ultimately he's talking about, right? No different than McDonald's or Tim Hortons, as we've talked about. So as he's trying to allude that he has a separation from the other service corporation, the government of Ontario, so that they cannot have control over his armed forces, it also exposes as well that they're a separate entity. They're independent. Nothing that they put pen to paper applies to we the people. They're there to protect and serve us when there's a trespass, a breach of the peace that's gone on, not all this traffic stuff that's occurring. But again, all that stuff will get sorted. We've got to bring the simple truth. The rules of civil procedure don't apply. And once we do that, Armenia, in the courthouse, in front of our country and world, all of a sudden the bar is out of the way. No one is going to block me in bringing the truth, the enormous evidence that I have forward. And I'm going to move the courts like lightning. It's not just the
So this will help,
court.
this will help. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. This will help people like Norman Traversy move forward with his filing for his prosecution, right? Once yours is moved through and it's setting it up for anyone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't talk too much about it, but let me just say this. You know, I love Norman to death and everything he's doing. The S&L affair, with all due respect, is small potatoes compared to this massive, as you've talked about, you know, this horrific wrong and harm. Like, we're talking about mass murder here in this country.
I know.
People are being terrorized.
I know. We're not mentioning and getting into all of that, but I'm well aware. And it goes a lot deeper than
right.
I understand. Yeah.
And that's what I'm drilling down on. That's what I want people to know, that the second that I get this in through the Sekleski court, right coming behind it is documentation that's going to address all of this, right? This is the fight that has to happen. And when that happens in the court, I'm telling everyone, it's so simple. It's the same 3 questions that we're going to show everybody on this broadcast on Sunday, with the documentation that just went to the mayor of Burlington here, Marion Mead Ward, for what had happened to a man in his water store. That's just absolutely horrific, which maybe we can just touch on before we clear up. But that's what I want people to know. That's what the solution is. And God bless you for talking about, you know, we talked about there's so much information out there. It's a fog for people to hear. We understand that. But I'm saying that there's this very bright light right now that's at a public courthouse. And when you understand, once we get past these rules of civil procedure, there's a lot more that's coming in right behind it that's separate from that Sekleski court. I'm going to be my own court, okay, the James court. And I'm going to be going after the very corruption that we've discussed here on a very huge level in this country. And it's all going to be shut down very quickly if they don't come forward and basically claim that I'm property. They have a contract with me, right? Or they can prove that any man or woman in this world can administrate property without right. It's that simple, Armina.
Wow. Well, this is fascinating. And I can't wait to follow up with you and bring you back on after this. You know, I know you're going to be very busy the next week or so. Yeah, pushing this through, and we're all behind you 100%. It's so important for everybody, for all of us. And may the angels and everything that is of highest good surround you and protect you.
Oh, thank you. And if I can also say too, you have to understand, we've been talking for several months, Jesse Casanova and I, about productions that we've been working on. And I'm proud to finally tell everybody it's going to start to begin to remember everything is calculated that's happening at our end. Right, we're pushing everything to consciousness to move everyone collectively, really to the end of November. That's when I think the rubber's really going to hit the road across the board on this. What we've got coming out in a little over a week, a massive. It's called a Red Pill that Jesse's done. It's beautiful. Then after that, we have the trilogy that we're finalizing right now that will really help fast track people to remove this stuff. And then after that, we've got the interview with Judy Mikovits that I did, 8 or 9 weeks ago now. I mean, that's how powerful this is. I've kept this back because the conversation that I had with Judy Mikovits has never happened before, because we're able to get into the lawful side, and she revealed some other stuff that's just going to be very powerful for people to hear in this time for us.
Excellent. And maybe I can have Jesse on to talk about what he's doing when he's available. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, he's like, we're going full out, the two of
I
us
know.
here. You know, I was up till 5 o'clock this morning working in, but it's going to come to a head here where we're going to finally get over that hump. Once
Hmm.
our information is out here, then we can get back to really speaking to people. But
Yeah.
the truth is going to take care of itself. And what we're doing here, I'm confident that, if people have got some doubts or whatever, just please believe in what I'm saying here. I'm transparent and also Amina. It's very important you understand the simplicity that's going on here and the power what we actually have, and we're going to bring this forward to this world, and that is my commitment and promise.
Wonderful. I'm very happy to be able to share this knowledge and help others understand better. So let's just let everybody know what we're doing on Sunday, and I think we're good to wrap it up here, and we can just
Yeah.
talk a little bit about Sunday, what we're going to do for our show on Sunday.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, there's a situation where a man here who has a water store was trespassed upon by agents and officers from a service corporation.
Hmm.
And that service corporation is called the City of Burlington, or Burlington, right?
Hmm.
So what happened was, we're going to get into this. These two bylaw officers came in there, and one of them actually there was two women in there, and one of them had a face shield on. She couldn't wear a mask, and this guy was belittling her to the point. He was attacking her, more or less, terrorizing her, that she wound up in tears. And then there was another man that was in the store that was a possible new prospective customer for him. And he basically fled the store when he saw this harassment that was going on by these two agents that had come into his store that were trespassing on his property. So this
Hmm.
is going to be a good talk on Sunday when we bring Tim on. And we're also going to be able to share with everybody the documentation that got sent to this woman who's acting as the mayor for this service corporation, which she better produce post haste. Otherwise, we were requiring this guy to be fired. I mean, you don't do this to people. I mean, you don't come into a store and act like a Gestapo, like, it was like the good cop, bad cop routine I think they were doing, these two bylaw officers. And you need to understand, they have as much jurisdiction over you and I as a mall cop. Okay. Unless we're in the actual building of this
Hmm.
corporation of the City of Burlington, that's where their jurisdiction ends, if we're breaching the peace. But it's a public building that we can ultimately access, and they have no right to come into our businesses. And this is what Tim and many people, I hope, are going to start to fight back with. We need to tear down these signs that are the social distancing. We need to stop with this mask nonsense in our businesses. This is how you fight back. They're telling you to lock down. You say, no, I'm not going to. And you get into that store. You might know, I think you know
Hmm.
Chris Sky. You familiar with Chris Sky from Hugs Over Mask? Or he's with
Oh, yes. Hmm.
the speaker. He got a fine, I heard rumor, that for $1 million or $100,000 or something. They fined him or something. But what they ended up doing, I think, I spoke to him 3 weeks ago or so. He
Hmm.
said that the police knew what he was doing was not wrong, so they wrote his name wrong, right, on the offense ticket that they were giving him. Not that, again, that has any standing against him, because again, they're trying to contract with him, and the people are starting to wake up to this fraud. But when these people that are supposed to be protecting our property of man, these service corporations, the
Hmm.
Ontario government or the provincial government or the federal government, it's very serious when you see what they're doing. Something very wrong is going on, and that's why people need to know who they are. And once you know the truth, believe me, the truth is going to set us all free. And for those of you that are just coming into this, just bear with us. We've got about 30 days here, and that's when the rubber's really going to hit the road for all of us. And Sunday's going to be a great talk, Amina. So I hope all your audience will come back and see this, because this applies to every single man and woman that has a business out there. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm going to
exactly.
show you how you respond when you are trespassed upon on your property. Remember, your business is your property. Okay, nobody
Hmm.
can come in here and administrate over you or it, unless, of course, you're causing wrong and harm and they're doing it for the benefit of their fellow man, which isn't the case with this man and his water store in Burlington.
Hmm. Well, that's great. Thank you. I think let's end it here. It's a lot of information again, and but I do hope everyone can join us for the next show. We're going to be recording it on Sunday. I'll try to get it up for Sunday night,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I have very slow Wi-Fi here, so I'll do my best to get that up for Sunday night. So,
That's wonderful.
um, any questions, they can email you at awarriorcalls.com. That is your website.
Actually at info@awarriorcalls.com. That's where they
Okay,
can email
perfect. Yes.
any
I was
questions.
sorry that I was just sending them to the website, but yes,
Yep.
that's the email. And
Yep.
I'll have the links up, of course, so everyone can get your information there. So that's it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Christopher. God bless. Thank you so much.
Yes, and thank you everyone that's out there. We never need to come together more than now, and this is why Amina and I are doing all this work. Right, we're trying to pull thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in this country awake to these simple truths, because we have the solution here moving forward. It's all based on love. It's all evidence-based, factual. We just need to get that into the light in the courthouse, and we're going to get it done. Like I say, I'm so proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, and it's only getting better and better for us. So again, thank you. I mean, I appreciate everything that you do.
Well, I stand with you. So thank you. Thanks,
God bless.
Christopher. God bless.